1975 bankruptcy of New York City. As you recall, one of the factors that caused New York City to go bankrupt was the fact that their welfare rolls were burgeoning. They were bursting at the seams, and the city couldn't afford to keep them up anymore.
Okay, so
and that's the idea, is to cause upheaval.
Okay, so help me out with the Rathke brothers, because are they ideologues like this, or are they corrupt? Are they people that are just going for the almighty dollar?
That's really hard to say. I think they started as ideologues, but then the brother, Dale, who embezzled $948,000 from ACORN, I think he was corrupted, and I suspect Wade, the founder, was corrupted too, although we don't actually have evidence of that. He became more focused on money than on actual social change.
He paid the money back. He paid $1 million back. He was supposed to pay it like $30,000 a year.
Drummond Pike paid it back.
Yeah,
Drummond
who is
Pike
that?
He's the founder of the Tides Foundation, which is a shadowy pass-through. It's like a donor-advised fund. So, for example, George Soros could write a check for $10 million to the Tides Foundation, get the tax deduction for it, and then secretly store the money there, and then tell them who to write the checks to. The Tides Center and the Tides Foundation do that, and then they hand out the money anonymously, so you never know where it's coming from.
So the check to pay the $1 million back that he embezzled, which got him off the hook, was written by the Tides Foundation, but we don't know.
No, it was written by Drummond Pike personally. Drummond Pike is a 60s peacenik.
Okay.
And he's involved in George Soros's Democracy Alliance. I know it gets complicated.
Does this, and I think intentionally so, does this end in Washington? Does this end in New York? Does this end around the world? Where any idea at all where the source of power? It's almost, correct me if I'm wrong, I have the feeling it's almost like a terror cell, where you can open up one terror cell, but that cell doesn't really even know what it is anymore. It's just operating. Where's the source of power?
Well, it was New Orleans, but since Wade and his brother Dale were forced out last summer by the National Board of ACORN for the embezzlement and the 8-year cover-up that Wade Rathke participated in, there seems to be a power vacuum, and the various important figures within ACORN are struggling to give it a sense of direction. The new CEO or chief organizer is Bertha Lewis, who is a successful executive director of New York ACORN, which runs high schools, social justice high schools, 2 of them in New York City.
Do you believe
ACORN has its fingers in so many pies you wouldn't even believe it.
Do you have any evidence that she is corrupt?
I don't.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We will talk to you again. Now, joining me from Washington is Minnesota Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann, who has kind of found herself in the middle of this because, if I'm not mistaken, Michelle, was it last week? You put something in a bill, it passed. Barney Frank then went back in and changed it on ACORN. Can you explain?
Yes, it was in Financial Services Committee. I offered an amendment that would defund any organization who was indicted or convicted of voter fraud to prevent them from having access to taxpayer money, taxpayer grants. Barney Frank accepted the motion. He approved it. There was a voice vote. It was unanimous. And then after that, Barney Frank sent a memo out to his colleagues saying he had made a mistake and he wanted to gut the amendment, and he invited his Democrat colleagues to vote against my amendment.
You know, I have to tell you, I don't know if Barney Frank is in on something. He is a useful idiot. I mean, I know he believes in a lot of stuff. He believes in every American should have free housing, I believe. But nobody is standing up, Michelle, in Washington on the left and really coming out. I mean, we have the ACORN 8. They're still in ACORN, and they're looking for help. They're looking for help. Who's helping them, and why are they not helping them in Washington? Do you have a sense of what's going on?
We're trying to help them because my position is this, Glenn. No organization has a right to taxpayer funding. And if you look at ACORN, they have been the recipients of about $53 million in direct funding since 1994. Now with the stimulus bill and with the last budget bill, there's a potential that ACORN could have access to, get this, over $8 billion potentially in grants. This is serious money.
Okay, America, so you understand, they are immediately going to say that, no, they're not. But you have to remember the over 200 organizations that are all centered in that. The ACORN may not go for it, but SCIU may go for it and pass it on. It's all going into the same pot. Now, we have something here. This is a statement from Marcelle Reed. She's the national chair of ACORN 8. She is the chairperson of ACORN in Washington, D.C. She says, the National Board of ACORN 8 met last night and has called on all active ACORN members to stop paying their dues immediately until the questions about the finances are answered. She also, these are both issued just a minute ago. This is breaking news here on ACORN. Michelle Reed and Karen Inman also asked last week on the program, is there anyone at all on Capitol Hill that could help track the money? Michelle, will you reach out to these people and help track the money? We have met with these people. I mean, there's so much here, and they're begging for anyone on Capitol Hill to help.
Glenn, tomorrow I'm having a press conference with one former ACORN member and her attorney. We're asking for an accounting, and we want to make sure that an organization that is under indictment isn't accessing taxpayer money. And my point last week in Congress is, will members of Congress stand with ACORN, or will they stand with the taxpayer? We have a fiduciary duty to look out for the best interests of taxpayers. This can't continue. And so, yes, I'll be happy to go forward.
Please.
And unfortunately, Jerry Nadler had stopped an investigation that Democrat Congressman John Conyers was calling for. But then Congressman Conyers stopped himself. And so now there's no hearing on ACORN when exactly there should be.
He didn't just stop himself. He said exactly what Nadler said before. He was fighting with Nadler, and all of a sudden he adopted Nadler's arguments and came out with a statement.
And Glenn, what was amazing is last week, 2 states handed out indictments against ACORN. Nevada on Monday, Pennsylvania on Thursday. So just hours, hot off the presses before members of Congress were voting against my amendment, they were indicted again.
Listen, this is not, please make sure that anybody that you deal with there in Washington understands this is not about votes. This is not about Republicans versus Democrats. This is about corruption. And I'm telling you, this corruption goes all through. This is huge. There's something big
you're exactly
here.
Right.
The other thing is, Michelle, I know the person that you're going to have a press conference with tomorrow. I believe her story, but you do know that she was fired from ACORN because she was using the corporate credit card. She was part of her own little.
Yes, and I would love to have Marcelle Reed with us in this press conference tomorrow. I don't know if she was available or not, but I agree with you. I understand that there's some questions. The real point is ACORN. We need congressional hearings. We need to get to the bottom of this because, again, there's a potential for access to $8 billion of taxpayer money.
This is really bad stuff. Okay, thank you very much, Michelle. I appreciate it. And congratulations, by the way, on your state of Minnesota. They have introduced a Minnesota Firearm Freedom Act, joining a growing list of states working to get their freedom back by having guns made in the state and kept within the borders, exempt from federal regulations. I know this sounds like a little gun law, but this has huge ramifications. It could be an answer that many Americans are looking for in maintaining their liberty and their own state rights. We are going to do a special on this Friday, the civilest of wars. This Friday, live. Don't miss it. Now, a lot of people will say that carbon dioxide is a scary gas. My Aunt Hermina had scary gas. Evidence that Al Gore's scary gas isn't so scary. Next.